Hi class, this is Gigi. Wanted to go over written assignment number 4 with the equation with fractions. This is the one that most of you actually have questions on, so let's go over that. 3 over 2x plus 1 over 3x is equal to negative 3x plus 3 over 4. Okay, so we have learned how to solve equations with whole numbers. I mean, instead of 3/2, 1/3, 3/4, if those are just normal whole numbers, you didn't have a problem with, right? So here we would say, what can I do to undo all of these fractions? So how can I undo all fractions at the same time? Well, to undo divided by 2, you would multiply by 2, right? To undo divided by 3, you would multiply by 3. So if you were to undo both 2 and 3, you would multiply by 6, right? Multiply both sides by 6, which is the least common denominator. But here you have 4 fractions, 2, 3, and 4. So then you would say, well, what is the least common denominator between 2, 3, and 4? And that would be 12, right? So if you take 4, the easiest way is, when the numbers are small enough, I would just go count by 4, which is the largest factor there. So you would say 4. Okay, well, I know 3 doesn't go there. That's not it. 8. I know 3 doesn't go there. That's not it. The next number up would be 12. And 3 goes into 12, 2 goes into 12, so does 4. So that is my least common denominator. So what am I doing with that least common denominator? Multiply both sides of the equation by 12. Now, why is that legal? Because it's an equation, right? So that's the most important part right here, that equal sign. When you have an equation, if you do the same to both sides, so the equation still is going to be balanced. So what does it mean to multiply the whole entire left-hand side by 12? That is distributive property. So you have to distribute the 12 into here and the 12 into here as well, right? And so 12 is 12 over 1. So you can see it being cross cancel, or you can just think, okay, well, 12 divided by 2 is 6. So I will have 6 multiplied by what I had before there, which is 3x, plus, well, I have 1x there before, so I'm going to leave that. And then I would say, well, 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I have 4 multiplied by 1x, or I don't really need that 1 there, right? So 4 times x is what I have there, or say 1x, if that makes more sense to you, is equal to, again, what does it mean to multiply the whole entire right-hand side by 12? Distributive property will apply. So I have to multiply everything by 12 that is inside there. And 12 is, again, 12 over 1, right? So you can see here you will just have 12 times negative 3x, which is negative 36x, plus, well, how does that work here? 12 divided by 4 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So really you have 3 multiplied by what you had there, which is 3, right? Now we can go and clean everything up. 6 multiplied by 3x is 18x, plus 4 times 1x is 4x, is equal to negative 36x plus 9. Okay, so what was the point of that least common denominator? it will zap all fractions. It will zap all fractions at once. And you can see that you get a nice equation with just whole numbers. And you can proceed from there. So 8 plus 4 is 22. So I have 22x is equal to negative 3x plus 9. I mean, not negative 3. That should be negative 36. Right? And in order to solve for x, I need to get x's on to one side. So I'm going to go undo minus 36x by adding 36x to both sides. So I will have 58x is equal to 9. Then divide by 58 to get x by itself, because this right here is going to be 1. A number divided by itself is 1, so I have 1 copy of x, which is really what I needed. 1 copy of x is equal to 9 over 58. And before you box that answer, you should use your calculator to check your answer. Okay, meaning put 9 over 58 back to your x up in the original equation, and then do the calculation. Make sure that 9 over 58 will give you a true statement. Okay, now that is what you would do when you have fractions, but what about when you have decimals? For example, in part D of the written assignment, you have, let's give some room right here. In part D, you have, here we are, you have 0.7x plus 2 is equal to 0.4x plus 8. Well, this is not any different than fractions. 0.7 really is 7 over 10x plus 2 is 2 over 1 is equal to, here, this is 4 over 10x plus 8 is 8 over 1. So really, this is just another equation with fractions. And we have learned that if we just go ahead and take a look at the denominator and find the least common denominator of all of those, in this case, least common denominator is 10. And you could have seen that by just looking at the decimal, right? 1 decimal place means 10th place. So least common denominator is 10. Now, let's say if it has, for example, the question had like 8.123. Well, then this right here is 1,000. So between 10 and 1,000, your least common denominator would be 1,000 if that is the case, right? So that is how we would deal with decimals. Multiply by the least common denominator, just like the fractions, but in this case, the least common denominator would be easier to look at, and it will either just, 10 if it has a maximum of 1 decimal place, 100 if one of those have 2 decimal places, or 1,000 if the maximum number of decimal places is 3, right? So here again, we will go ahead and multiply both sides by 10 because we have an equation. Whatever we do on the left-hand side, we do the same on the right-hand side. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. 1 times 7 is 7x. Plus 10 multiplied by 2 is 10 is equal to 10 divided by 10 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 4x, or you can think 0.4 times 10 is move the decimal place over 1, so that is 4x. And then 8 times 10 is 80. Now you have whole numbers to deal with, right? And that would just be something that you should be able to do. So I'm not going to finish this problem. You can do that. And that is how we address equations with fractions. Multiply by least common denominator equation, both sides, right? Multiply both sides by the least common denominator and distribute that into each terms on the left-hand side, distribute that to each terms on the right-hand side. When you clean it up, you should have normal equation with whole numbers to deal with. And then if you have decimals, again, least common denominator is going to be 10, 100, 1000, or whatnot, depending on how many decimal places there are.